1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Hello, internet world. It's Norma Joe. I'm not dead yet, apparently. Well, because I haven't uploaded the first 2 videos. Anyway, yeah, who's ready to get fucking canceled, man? Let's get fucking canceled up in here, man. And, okay, this is what I feel like I'm gonna fucking end the race war in America with this shit, because whites and blacks, every fucking buddy, can hate me equally for this bullshit, man. Just fucking get all the black people on one side to put a rope around one arm and one leg, get all the white people on the other side, put a rope around the other arm and leg, and just have them fucking rip me apart, okay? Do all that fucking shit. So, yeah, let's get back into this stupid-ass story. That's gonna be the death of me. I wonder if the next story is gonna be better than this, or if it's gonna be even worse. Because I can't even imagine. So let's get into this fucking bullshit. It's gonna hit my head on a fucking plate that I wrote when I was 18 years old. 12 fucking years ago. I think it was 12 years, right? Yeah, something like that. Alright. You ain't calling me a goddamn bitch, Pato barked, pushing himself up sharply onto his hands, instead of laying on his belly. Clyde got up just as fast, but from his back, so he was sitting upright. They were glaring at one another, tense and ready to fight. They're already about to fight. God Jesus. Never a moment of peace in this household. Yes, I is, you fucking bitch. Pato snarled and whacked him with a backhanded crack across the face. So many times I wrote that line when I was like a fucking child. So lame. Don't be calling me names. The words were barely out of his mouth before Clyde whacked him back, the knuckles of his hand leaving his nose ringing numb, and then he pushed him again, clean off the bed. Pato stumbled back, and in a heartbeat. His back was colliding hard with the floor, and the backs of his knees were scraped on the bed frame. God, is there gonna be a fucking story that I read in here that doesn't have to do with domestic violence? You know? I mean, Tiki didn't, but that's because he lived alone. He was panting, frozen like that for a moment. And then quickly scrambled out of it, tipsy with the impact on his hands and knees. You is motherfucking crazy, he panted, his blue eyes taking on an almost possessed appearance. The pupils were dilated almost to the rim of his irises. Oh, suck it up, Clyde spat. Don't fucking... Sanka sat frozen on the couch with his arms around his knees and his toes curled tight in his socks. His eyes were deer-like, and while his head pointed up forwards towards the near-silent static on the TV set, oh, he's just looking at static, that's not a good sign. His eyes were watching to the side, strained, the headphones hung on his ears, with the volume on his disc player turned off. He could hear the muted and broken screams from the other room. This poor kid, he needs to leave. He's 18 years old, man, he can just leave, you know. There were squeaks from the bed, dull pounds against the wall, and skittered footsteps with their bodies being thrown around. What a shitty household. He felt sick, nauseous, and freezing cold. Yeah, I don't fucking blame him. The boy looked downwards and let his eyes close, taking a short rest. It may be their way, but he could never get used to it. Never. He couldn't care less about anything more than being tough? There's like a whole sentence like scratched out. What does it say? I don't know. Oh, and then chapter 4, Changelings, part 2. Oh, fucking God, so we're not away from these people yet. Clyde. Pato's voice, Clyde, I guess. He said smoothly, apparently, because it says Pato's voice came smoothly, like the late morning sun purring in through the bedroom's shadeless window. Clyde, come on, wake up. The blonde man crept closer to his sleeping roommate. Oh yeah, I said in an earlier video that I thought Pato was transgender, but actually I don't think that's fucking true. I don't know why I said that. Whatever, who gives a fuck? Let me see. Blah 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 blah. Carrying a soft smile on his pink lips. He nudged Clyde's shoulder with the back of his forearm, but he didn't even give the tiniest of sounds, let alone move. Maybe he's dead. Clyde, Clyde, Pato cooed. Get up, rusty head. He came closer, setting one hand on the other side of Clyde, straddling his torso with his arms, but without touching, until he dipped his head down and licked Clyde softly on the ear. Ugh, and yet to get no response. Pato sighed and drew away, back to his side of the bed. The window was behind Clyde, warming his back, and the light which hit Pato lit up his front. Pato knelt like that, facing the window and his unconscious roommate, bruised and smeared with blood. Maybe he's dead. He was lost for what to do, and let any trace of worry slide off his skin, beginning to toy with his spindly fingers and his thin blonde hair. The space of the sheet which Pato knelt on was browned and stiffened with blood. Holy shit, that's a lot of blood. Beneath his bony knees. This is basically a fucking, I feel like this is a fucking, what's his face? Like a Rob Zombie movie or something like that. Rob Zombie always had shit like that. Rednecks, domestic abuse, violence, all that shit, it could be a Rob Zombie story, But he himself was clean. His scent was neutral and faintly soapy, undetectable in the musty little apartment. The t-shirt and shorts he had on stuck to the cool dampness of his skin. His hair made a wet, see-through patch on the white fabric on his upper back. He left his hair alone for the moment. That's what I like about living in a hot place. When I was in San Francisco, it was a fucking pain in the ass. Whenever you wash your hair, if you wash your hair at night, don't ever fucking wash your hair at night. That shit is a pain in the ass. You're gonna get your blanket wet, your pillow wet, and you're gonna be all wet and nasty. But here it's so fucking hot, it doesn't even matter. It's totally fine. Anyway, the t-shirt and shorts he had on stuck to the cool dampness of his skin. His hair made... Oh yeah, I already read that. Okay. He left his hair alone for the moment, brushing it back softly over his shoulders. He turned his attention to his legs, blotched with purplish gray bruises and clam-pink scrapes. Pato looked back to the window, lopped forward, back on his hands and knees, and crept back to Clyde. Wake up, will you? He hoped Clyde was not playing with his mind. He turned into a dog and laid close against Clyde's side. He rested his thin collie mutt muzzle below his roommate's ribs and gave a small soft whine before turning his head and lapped his tongue against the scabbed-over rusty slashes on his roommate's side. He loves to fucking lick. But there was no fresh blood to get, only the sour taste of dried crust, which left Pato wrinkling his nose and spit seeping out onto his split bottom lip. He turned back to human and stood up on the bed, adjusted his bare feet on the sinking mattress so that he had a hold. He reached down to take Clyde's hands and then stood up straight and pulled. Leaning back, rising Clyde up, though he was dead limp and his head flopped to one side into a sitting position. Is he honestly really dead? I was kind of joking, but maybe he's dead. Damn, Clyde, you heavy as hell, the blond man muttered under his breath. He took a step back on the mattress, a step with only one foot, and let go of Clyde's hands as Clyde uttered a low, sleepy groan. Oh my god, he lives. I thought he was fucking dead. Damn, finally, but that was more to himself than to Clyde. The other man gave a yawn and put his arms behind him to keep himself sitting up, if in a very slouched way. He took a small glance around the room as if just to check if everything was in order, and then looked up at Pato. Pato standing there black-eyed and with tangles still in his damp hair. "Aw, baby," he said, smiling a little. I bet he's fucking smiling, that asshole. With one eye squinted shut against the sunlight. What you looking so pretty for?" Pato returned his compliment with a coy little smile, pressing his cheek against his shoulder. Clyde chuckled. "Let's go out today, you cool?" He reached out softly with one hand to finger brush the hair that fell in front of Pato's shoulder onto one side of his chest. They're like the typical abusive couple. Like, one minute they fucking trying to kill each other, the next moment they're all like, "Ooh, I love you, I love you." It's fucking bullshit. Yeah, shoot, why not? And the funny thing is they always say shoot. like instead of saying shit or fuck or something like that. But I mean, maybe it's just what they say, you know. It's like, but then on the other hand, it just strikes me as like fucking like a movie that's trying to be PG-13 instead of R. You know what I mean? So they like tone down everybody's like cussing and stuff like that. But I mean, whatever. People do have like kind of set phrases they say sometimes. So maybe that's theirs. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, shoot, why not? Pato answered softly. Pretty as hell outside. Actually, he could be transgender. I don't know. He could have been born a woman, and now he's a man. But just like, you know, he's not like the most butchest man ever. Like, he still has long hair and shit like that, but he's still like a man. I don't know. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I don't remember what he is. And it doesn't fucking matter. You know, to be honest. Who gives a fuck? I don't think there's any details in here saying. Sunlight streaked down effortlessly onto the wooden dock, reflecting in glitter off the lazy ocean waves. Rusty and Sunshine wandered at ease across the boards, hand in hand, watching the seagulls and the boats in the harbor, further out, way out down the beach. What the fuck is you looking at? Pato's head was rested on Clyde's shoulder, where the two of them were seated on one of the benches on the dock. I think it's funny how they're apparently living on the coast too. Resting, he opened up his eyes fast and looked over to see who it was that Clyde was being aggressive towards. Their enemy was an old, huffy-looking woman who promptly strolled away without a word. Is that a Karen? What the hell was that for? Pato questioned before the woman was even out of hearing range. She was all staring and shit, Clyde answered. Like she ain't never in her whole damn-ass life seen two people together. Oh, Pato muttered, and then, attempting to make a quick change of subject, looked to Clyde and said, Hey, wanna go someplace else? Where else? He answered back. Pato looked at him. He was jittering. He was bored. And Pato knew he could use that. Anywhere, shoot. Just not Pacific Road. I ain't taking my ass over there. Why ain't you wanting to go to Pacific Road? 'Cause I don't. That's where all them freaks and hobos hang out outside. All them fancy-ass stores and call shit at you, and I don't want them fucking me in any way, not even in their imaginations. Haha, I remember that line, that's funny. That's fucking true, though, like, that's why it's so fucking annoying when people catcall you or whatever like that, or they fucking yell shit out of their car. It's like, for them, they might not even think you're hot. They might think you're fucking ugly. They're just doing it just to fuck with you and just to be able to say that they did it so they can feel like a fucking badass or whatever the fuck. They're a fucking loser. And it's like, yeah, in their imagination, they're like imagining themselves like fucking you. And it's just like, don't imagine yourself fucking me. Like, that's not even right. Then I'm gonna imagine myself killing you. Then we'll be even or whatever. Here, one sec.